The most embarrassing thing I've done would be to...
If you gave me £1 million tax-free, what would I do with it?
Interest investment that I made was...
What's your name? What do you do?
So I'm Anthony Adogu. I'm the CEO and founder of Future Space Technologies.
What's the first time you tried to start a business?
I would say whilst I was at uni. So I had a IT consultancy at uni, just trying to help people with their IT problems, see if I can help them and charge them at the same time. So this was some years ago whilst I was an undergrad studying computer science.
What was it that you wanted to be when you was a kid?
So I always aspired to be an NBA basketball player. Always played basketball, like Jordan. My favorite team as a kid was Chicago Bulls.
And then how did you move or develop from sort of interest in basketball and then moving into IT and technology?
So IT technology was something I always had. So we grew up with Super Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation. So I always liked graphics and tech. So I wanted to see, what's that all about? And I would stay on it for hours when I'm not playing basketball. And I wanted to see what was the goal. So when it came to student or choosing my subject at uni, I went into the computer science field, and that's how the tech thing came about.
What's been your proudest moment to date as an entrepreneur?
Last year I was announced the winner for Best Tech Enterprise from the Royal Bank of Scotland, UK. And having a thriving business, I think as entrepreneurs, we go through a lot of exciting journeys and then always, come out with a real goal of having a successful business. I think that's number one for me.
What's your strongest character trait?
I think resilience. I think I'm one of those people that believe that no only means next opportunity, and that no mean the end of.
What's the most money you've ever lost or made in a single day?
The most money, I won't put a figure to it, but quite a bit. I think the early days, with that youthful exuberance, that passion, I tended not to look at, the numbers as such and kind of throw money at things or get a big office and do a lot of big things rather than starting at a micro level and taking gradual steps. So I've lost a few grand in pounds, but it was a great lesson for me.
If we gave you £1 million,
yes,
what would you do with it?
I would divide it into a few parts. So definitely a quarter of that will go into our business to kind of expand it, bring in some great minds, some great scientists to kind of work on some great projects. Definitely put it in part of my foundation, which is to bring up the next generation of exciting technical minds or technological minds. 20% of that will go towards my children, the next generation, to kind of give them a head start. And the rest of it will be on myself. I think I deserve some great holidays and some great experiences around the world.
Capitalism.
Yes.
Is it evil or good?
Very good question. I think it's something we could use to make good. I don't believe that any true social gain or social change can be done without capital. Capital is a mean that we can use to work and get things done. I'm a very interested in terms called social enterprise, which is something I'm an advocate for. Making good things sustainable throughout the world and having legs. I think charity has been tarnished, unfortunately, but with the new social enterprises that are happening, capital is part of that. And the key word is sustainability. So I think that it can be a good thing if done well.
For those who don't know, do you mind just saying what social enterprise means or what social enterprise is?
Social enterprise, primarily from the way I define it, is having a good cause with an aspect of it being sustainable, i.e. making money for that thing to run 2, 5, 10 years from now.
What's been your most difficult or your worst customer or client to deal with?
One who doesn't sign on time. So they've lacked our pitch that we've come in with. They've lacked what we're going to deliver, but not really willing to sign for what we require to deliver at an excellent level. We've come in the doors, given them what we've done. We've actually produced prototypes for them, which is part of our resource and time, but they've not signed on the dotted line to release those funds. And in business, that could have a fallback in what we do and how we produce. So that ongoing fight actually led to a legal case. And also it resulted in us pumping in a lot of resources to actually win that in the end.
What was the emotional sort of journey of that? How did that impact your emotions?
I didn't expect it. I learned that business can be a very crude world, a very cutthroat world in its purity. So for me, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was able to see that, you've got to kind of think with your business head first rather than your emotions when dealing with things. So and analyzing whether, this opportunity or this lead is actually lucrative and actually worth the time, and whether to kind of step back and look at something more positive.
Would you say you've ever been conned or scammed in business?
I would say I was misled. We come across a lot of great characters and great people on our journey in business, but some of them don't really follow through with what they said. So I've paid for products that didn't quite meet up to what they wanted to do, or even paid for services that didn't deliver what I needed them to do for the business. So I was misled, but I've learned from that. Moving forward, I know how to kind of calculate and qualify, what's worth going down and what isn't.
Tell us about your most difficult, your lowest point as an entrepreneur and what you learned from that experience.
I think my lowest point as an entrepreneur is realizing that, at some point, it is a lonely journey, and you're embarking on a mission that sometimes only you can see the end. And those that you're expecting, that could be family or friends. In my aspect, didn't really buy into it at all. And it was only me keeping that light ablaze. It's more so I learned that keeping ahead, keeping that positivity, finding it from different resources, be that podcasts, interviews, books, other entrepreneurs, always helps you on the journey.
What's your biggest insecurity?
Not fulfilling my potential. We all know the end will come one day, but my insecurity is not have come into this world, this life, fulfilling the maximum potential that I was supposed to come in and do. I think that's my biggest insecurity.
And the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur?
I think we have some great highs and some challenging times, I like to put. I think that's it. We're not in a space where we constantly know this is going to happen for us. We come into the world and bring and add to the world more so than subtract. And that comes with great gains and sometimes challenging times. So for me, I think that's a great thing to be. I wouldn't choose anything else.
How much do you make a year?
That's a very cheeky question. I'm not one for numbers. I think we're profitable. We're very profitable. We have a growing team, and we have opportunities for great professionals to come and work with us. And we're scaling up, meaning that we are open to investment coming in from investors. Working with great partners will lead us to our next stage.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make?
Believing that you're going to be in the Rolls Royces and shopping at the biggest shops and doing all the exciting things. I think many of them don't understand the work and the sacrifice it takes to be an entrepreneur and then to be a successful entrepreneur. Is the biggest misconception. We see a lot of great ones every day on our screens, on our laptops, on social media, but the real work is very dirty. There's time periods where certain things are not happening. Your lights may be cut, but that's part of the experience. So I think the biggest misconception is not really understanding what a real, entrepreneur is and what it takes to have a successful business. I think that's the biggest misconception.
What inspires you on a day-to-day basis?
Leaving an impact. I'm very much for legacy. So having a company that outlives me and goes on to greater things. 100 years from now, 200 years from now, when my grandchildren are about, they could see this and know that, we've left a mark. So for me, that's what I'm going for.
Is poverty a choice, or can people choose to lose poverty?
Poverty, for me, more so, as much as it's materialistic, it can be a mindset. So once you rewire your mind to think in an affluent, in a rich mindset, then you can now eventually get yourself out of poverty. Poverty is not just restricted to, I don't have this or I don't have that. It's also a mindset, what are you putting into yourself via reading, via self-educating, via personal development that will raise your consciousness into a place of wealth and affluence. So for me, poverty is more so a mindset than it is a physical position. Did
you ever take on debt to get started or keep going?
Oh yeah. So we were beneficiaries of a startup loan when we first started our company, which we took full advantage of, but uniquely was at a very, very low rate in terms of interest rate. But on paper, that deems debt. But we were able to work very hard to pay that off, and now we're in a better place as a company. We took 15,000.
Would you do the same thing if you went back again?
Yeah, we would definitely. Probably take a bit more. I was a bit tight on ourselves, even at the time that we started a business. But definitely, I believe in good debt. Once there's a plan of executing, when you look at the big companies, they all have positive debt. So I believe that, when you want to grow, you have to take investment. You have to take certain monies into your company.
You've just become a renowned world leader. What's your first action?
Definitely, I'm looking at, impacting especially those demographics that don't get access. So a good saying is that talent is everywhere, but access to opportunity isn't. So providing structures, roots into STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths, for our young people. I think we need to start pioneering. As creative as we are the tastemakers in a lot of these sectors. So for me, I'll definitely have access routes for our young people in the STEM subjects, and you can put an A in there for the arts as well.
The most embarrassing thing you've ever done for business or money?
I think there was an event that I went to. I went out and had a raffle with sweets. And I went around the fair, putting out that raffle, and was going up to randoms and saying, hey, join our raffle and take a sweet and that sort of thing, and got a lot of pushback and funny looks, as it was quite a corporate event. But at the same time, it would enable me to come up my shell completely and put me in a different space and grow my character that I didn't know I had. So I always saw the positive looking back, but I can see the embarrassing factor of people in suits, and here I am with a sweet bowl and raffle ticket. So it didn't quite fit at the time, but it was a good character building process for me.
Would you say experiences like that sort of taught you how to deal with things like rejection and that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah. I learned to definitely not take things personal, especially in business. As difficult as it sounds, as cliche as it sounds, to understand that there could be rejecting you for a whole lot of reasons that you don't know, but they will never tell you. To try and separate business from personal.
And lastly, do you want to share any sayings, quotes, thoughts that might inspire or encourage people who are just getting into entrepreneurship or just starting their own thing?
Never give up and keep going. Don't ever believe that, because I didn't see it 5 years or even 10 years, that's not going to happen. You have to remember that things that we know. Take the example of KFC. That individual started that company at 67 years old. A lot of the things that we know of today started at people at different stages of their life. Oprah, that didn't start until her 40s before she became a household name. So don't ever give up, and there's no perfect time. Start now.